I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Renovator. I'm your host, Coach Phil. Today I'm excited to have a wonderful gentleman on our show, the author and the co-author of a great book called The Go-Giver Way. It's about giving exceptional value and enjoying extraordinary results. But before I do that, thank you for being here. If you're watching us live, thanks for that. And if you're catching us on the replay, remember to go #replay and let us know where you're watching in from. And if you'd be so kind and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that just helps us get more eyeballs and share the messages from the wonderful guests that we have on the Business Renovator. And people can watch the replays over and over and over, because as you know, on the internet, once it's there forever. And I want to do a shameless plug of my own business and the organization that I'm proud to be part of. So bear with me as we go into a quick video of Focal Point. Yeah, so if you are a business owner or want to be a business owner and you want to check where your business growth score is, if you just go to coachphil.ca, top right-hand corner of the website is the link to that. There's no credit card required. Just answer the questions. And if you would like to reach back out to us to understand what it says, great. We're happy to do that. And again, that's a complimentary coaching session. And if you just want to take the information, run with it, fantastic. Go ahead and do that as well. So let's get on with why we're here today. It's to share a story from a wonderful individual. For 30 years, Bob Burg has been successfully showing entrepreneurs, leaders, and sales professionals how to communicate their value, and accelerate their business growth. Although for years he was best known for his sales classic, Endless Referrals, which I have a copy. It's just not handy right now. The Go-Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, that has created a worldwide movement. While part of the 4-book series, The Go-Giver itself has sold more than 1 million copies and been translated into 30 languages. It has rated number 10 on Inc. magazine's list of motivational books ever written, and was on HubSpot's 20 most highly rated sales books of all time. Bob is the founder of the Go-Giver Community Network, which I'm proud to say I'm a member of, and first of its kind online business community created by and for Go-Givers. He is an advocate and supporter and the defender of the free enterprise system, which it makes me even more proud to have him on the show because he speaks my language. And believing that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people they serve. He also is unapologetically an animal fanatic and has served on the board of directors of Furry Friends Adoption Clinic in the town of Jupiter. And I like furry friends too. I can't wait any longer. I want to bring him up. As I said to you pre-show, I'm really grateful that you were here, able to fit us into your schedule. And I do enjoy hanging out with you every once in a while with your community, which I am now a part of in a small way. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Coach Phil. We love having you as part of the community.
It's a great community. It is a great community. You know, one of the questions that's going, and I know there's a lot of questions we could ask you because you have a wealth of knowledge. You're a speaker, author of a variety of different books. And I'm always curious, though, how did you get started? Because the book you didn't have this book when you were born. So where did you kind of, maybe the early days of how you got into this business? If you wouldn't mind sharing that, that would be an insightful point, I think.
Sure. I began in broadcasting, first in radio and then television. I wasn't particularly good at that. And it wasn't long before I like to say I graduated into sales. And the challenge I had, Phil, was that I knew nothing about sales on a formal level. So, and the company where I was at, the training was kind of negligible there. And so I really floundered for the first few months. And then I was in a bookstore one day. Now, this is about 40 years ago. And there were a couple of books. One was by Zig Ziglar and one was by Tom Hopkins. And it was on how to sell. And that shocked me. And I know it doesn't seem like a big thing now because these days sales books are everywhere. But back then, it just wasn't something that you knew about. And so I that encouraged me. What? There's actually a way to do this? And so I got the books, and I always say I never read those two books. I devoured those two books, and it really was a short period of time before I was able to improve immensely when it came to sales. Again, it had nothing to do with me as much as having a methodology for doing so. In other words, there was a system for doing this, and I personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. In other words, the key is predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know that all you need to do is A and continue to do A, and you'll get the desired result of B. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And as I started to learn more and more about selling, what I really learned is that it wasn't just the how-to aspect, it was really the personal development part that made the difference. Because to be successful on the outside, you've got to fill yourself with a lot of success information on the inside. You grow yourself internally. The success manifests itself outwardly, externally. So I began reading all the books that, the Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People and Psycho-Cybernetics and the Magic of Thinking Big and all, Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World. I just that's when my education began. I was a horrible student in school. My education began when I started in sales. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So years later, I was sales manager of another company. And I remember taking my team to a seminar that a speaker put on, and he had his cassette tapes that he was selling in the back. That's how long ago this was, right? Cassette tapes, and I had bought them. And in the back of the cassette tape, the workbook part, he had said, if you want to make some extra money speaking part-time and selling these tapes, call our office, which I did. And they showed me how to, speak for free at all these, civic clubs, groups, organizations, anybody who would have me for 25 to 30 minutes, how to do the talk, how to sell the tapes. And apparently from what they said, I was their number one salesperson in the country in terms of selling tapes, which who knows how many, might have been me and 5 others, who knows, but, but I did move a lot of those tapes. And then eventually I just wanted to do my own thing and speak on what really moved me. And that's really how my speaking business started. I, learned how to be a professional speaker, not just in terms of how to speak, but in terms of setting up a speaking practice. And then I wrote my first book back in the 90s and yada, yada, yada. Right. And here we are now.
So I love what you're talking about there. We're almost the same age. You're a little bit wet behind the ears compared to me.
I think I'm a little older. You look a lot younger than I do.
Oh, I may look like it's just plastic surgery. I'm kidding. No, I think I'm older based on looking at it, but it doesn't matter. What I like about what you're talking about is 2 of the people you mentioned early was Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins. So I've mastered the card trick. So much so, I have a box of cards with me, and I teach this to other people. And what's the magic of the card trick? It's not about telling what people should buy. And that's why I like about what you're about. It's about building the value. And in the card trick that Tom talked about, was asking questions. It's the art of asking questions. And what I like doing with the guests that I have on, like yourself, is I like to know where they've come from. That's why I asked that question right off the get-go. Tom Hopkins was influenced by the same person who initially influenced me, because I had a mentor back then. He said, "Hey, Phil, if you're going to go into selling, you got to learn how to do it. You should get these cassettes." Yes,
Yeah.
I know what cassettes are. I even know what to do with the pencil when you fix it. It was J. Douglas Edwards who trained Tom Hopkins,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And Zig was amazing at what he does too. And then the focal point group that I'm with, and I noticed that he's credited for reading your book, The Go Giver, and that's Brian Tracy, and he was all about having systems, etc. So,
Oh, Brian was the master. Well, he's a fellow Canadian of
yeah,
yours.
yes, but he moved south out of the snow. He's
Yeah.
living in the San Diego area, right?
But Brian is a fantastic human being and really one of the wisest and most knowledgeable people I've ever met, but just such a nice human being. But just I have so much respect for him. And I'll never forget, though, the time I was in the airport coming back. It was very late at night. It must have been around midnight or something. I was on the second leg of a connection, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just, I mean, it looks like I have 4 days growth on my face, even though I had shaved that morning and I was dragging and my shirts are rumpled, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And who do I see but Brian Tracy? And Brian, now at the same time of night, okay, Brian looks perfect. The guy looks like he had just shaved. His shirt looked starched. There wasn't a wrinkle on his jacket. And we saw each other. We got a quick, coffee. And I said, "How do you do it? How do you look like Brian Tracy right now?" But that was just him.
Yeah. One of the tips because he would come to some of the things we're doing because we're affiliated with him in the Focal Point brand. And if you picked him up and you had the radio on, he would chastise you, because he's a big fan of the University on Wheels.
Sure.
So listening to cassettes or MP3s now, we've moved to that. And he would never wear his suit jacket in the car. He always took it off. So that was one of the ways to stay.
That's right.
Wrinkles free,
right? Exactly.
I'm a fan of your book.
Thank you.
I think it's brilliant because it's talking about show up and give value first. And one of the things I teach in my sales training courses is no one cares about you until they know how much you care about them. And you basically have written a whole story about that with a bunch of smart people in your book. And I like the way that it's a story. We like the book so much that in the certification process for anybody who wants to come into the Focal Point world, it's mandatory reading.
Wow,
So
I'm honored.
we don't have thousands of coaches, but we have I guess probably over the 14 years I've been involved in, there's been 1,000 coaches have been introduced to that book. And one of the things that it really appeals to me, and I would really like you to talk more about it because you're the expert, is the 5 laws, your 5 laws that we're talking about.
Thank you. It's been a fun journey. I co-authored those with John David Mann, he was the lead writer and storyteller. I'm much more of a step 1, step 2, step 3. And John, who he himself he's a great entrepreneur, but he's just such a fantastic writer. Without him, it wouldn't have, the story wouldn't have popped as it did. The 5 laws are based around a premise, and that premise is simply that shifting your focus, and I think this is where really where it all begins, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way of conducting business, a more fulfilling way, it's actually the most financially profitable way as well. And not for some way out there, woo-woo, magical, mystical type of reasons. Not at all. It's actually very rational, very logical. When you're that person who can move from that I focus, right? Who can take their focus off of themselves and place it on serving others, discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire. When you can focus on helping others solve their problems or challenges, when you can help bring someone else closer to happiness, right? That person feels good about you. That person gets to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in a relationship with you. They want to do business with you. They certainly want to tell others about you. So it is good business to move to place the other person's interest first. I often, when I speak at sales conferences, I will often say, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota. to meet,
Yeah.
right? They're not going to buy from you because you need the money or even because you're a nice guy, nice gal, nice person. That's not why it's good, but that's not why they're going to buy from you. They're going to buy from you only because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And in the basically free market economy in which we operate in our two countries, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one's forced to do business with anyone else.
Mm.
In that kind of environment, that's the only reason why anyone should buy from you or from me or from anyone else, right? Because they believe they're gonna benefit. Now, so with that in mind, we look at the 5 laws that John and I share in the book, and those are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. And the first one's the law of value. And this one says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when you first hear that, it's a bit counterintuitive. Give more in value than I take in payment. That sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy, doesn't it? Right? So we have to simply understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth, so much value to another person that they will willingly choose to trade their money for this value. Okay. Let me give you a quick example, if I may. And we use a restaurant in the story, Ernesto
Mhm.
Ibrate's Italian cafe. So this is an upscale restaurant cafe. You go in there, you're going to probably pay, some good money for this meal, but it's more than just the meal. Because from the minute you walk in the door, you are just treated so wonderfully well. You're greeted at the door, you're escorted in. Uh, you meet the maitre d' who takes you to your seat and introduces you to the wait staff, and it's a small team, and they know exactly when to pay attention to you and when to kind of let you be, and the ambiance is wonderful, the food's delicious, the presentation's magnificent. You're just made to feel so special while you're there. Now,
Mhm.
you might come away paying $125 for the meal, but really, it was worth thousands of dollars in value, right? Because of the experience that you had from it. So you profit, and of course, Ernesto profits because his cost of goods sold was considerably less than $125, right?
Mhm.
The food, the staff, keeping the place open, and so forth. In fact, in any free market based exchange, there should always be two profits, at least two profits. The buyer profits and the seller profits, because again, each of them came away significantly better off afterwards than they were beforehand. And it's up to the seller to ensure that that happens. Um, and this is also why John and I say that money is simply an echo of value, right? It's the thunder to value's lightning, which means the focus must be not on the money you're bringing in. The focus must be on the immense experience you're giving that other person. The money you receive is simply a natural result of the value you've provided. That's basically the law of value. The second law, the law of compensation, says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. Um, in the story, Joe, the protege, learned from Nicole, the CEO, that the law of value represents your potential income, right? But serving one person, no matter how great the value, probably isn't going to be sustainable or sustainably profitable. No, law number 2 is all about how many lives you impact with that value. And to the degree that you're able to do that, now you've got, now you're talking about a combination of value and reach that is just absolutely unstoppable. Law number 3 is the law of influence. And this one says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Again, counterintuitive when you first hear it, maybe counterproductive, perhaps even Pollyanna-ish sounding, until you think about it and realize that the greatest leaders, the top influencers, the most sustainably profitable and successful sales professionals, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking for ways to benefit the other person. Now, let me qualify this, if I may, though, because I think this can be easily misunderstood, and I believe it's very important. When we say place the other person's interests first, we certainly don't mean that you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply understanding, as Joe, the protege, learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of sales, the golden rule of business, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you from others than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors, shared with Joe, advised Joe, to make your win all about the other person's win.
Yeah. Carry on. This is brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Phil. Law number 4 is the law of authenticity. And this one says that the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Now, in this part of the story, the mentor, Deborah, shared a very important lesson that she learned, and that is that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are indeed very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself, day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They feel comfortable with you. Phil, they feel safe with you. And why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting, right?
Yeah.
And as human beings, we have that internal need for consistency, both in ourselves, but absolutely in those people we trust. On another note, I think that authenticity, the term, has become so used and overused and almost abused. And I think a lot of people misinterpret it, just, my opinion. They see authenticity as just, no boundaries, just say or do whatever you want. That's authentic. And if people don't like it, too bad, right? That would be the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot. And if I were to act any differently, that wouldn't be authentic of me. That's hogwash. Okay? It simply means this person has an authentic problem that this person needs to authentically work on in order to become a better, higher, more effective, authentic self, right?
I have a side note that I'd like to augment what you're saying there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
And we were talking about Brian Tracy, and Brian Tracy's brilliant in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And like I said to you, I like to go behind the scenes of where people who I admire and learn from come from. So I had an opportunity to meet the fellow who got me introduced to Brian Tracy, because I was selling cars at the time. And the sales manager said, "Hey, Jilks, you like this stuff?" And I said, "What stuff's that?" And he says, "Personal development." And I said, "Yeah, I love that stuff." He gave me a ticket. I went to this Phoenix seminar. It was Brian Tracy. Speed this up real quickly, because this is not about me, but I really think it's relevant to what we're talking about the authenticity. So I met the fellow who gave the ticket to the sales manager, who gave me the opportunity to meet Brian. I bought him breakfast 2 years ago to find out how he was connected to Brian Tracy. And we got talking about another fellow by the name of Lou Tice, and I didn't think he had ever heard of him. And he has been a huge impact on my life. And 3 words that I want to share. And to live on, help his Lou's legacy live on are be authentic, progressive, and effective. To your point, it's not authentically showing up and, like you described, I'm an angry guy and I'm going to be angry. Authentic, progressive, and effective. I just want to make sure our audience knew what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And I think that when authenticity is used as an excuse for not growing, it's counterproductive. Instead, let's use authenticity as an impetus for growing into our best possible self.
Totally. You're right on point, man.
And then law number 5 is the law of receptivity. And this is the one that kind of brings it on home. And it says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. Well, this means nothing more than understanding that, you breathe out, you also breathe in, right? It's not one or the other, right? We have to do both. We breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out, which is giving, we breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving are not opposite concepts, though the message the world gives us, you'd never know that, because the world is absolutely filled with anti-prosperity messages. It's an amazing thing, and it's really a shame. But it is what it is, and so successful people deal in truths. And so, that's just how it is. But we have control over ourselves, and that is to make sure we take in the right information purposely and proactively, as opposed to just hearing the stuff that's out there. But giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin. They work in tandem. The key is that it starts with the giving. This is universal law. This is laws of nature, human nature, but even physical nature, right? We plant before we harvest. We sow before we reap. We give before we receive. What we need to do, though, is that once we've done this, once we have given value to many, place the other's interests first, come from our true authentic core, now we need to allow ourselves to receive with gratitude that which we have earned, not that which we're entitled to, but that which we have earned through the contribution of value that we've provided to others.
Well, that's powerful stuff. That was like 2 questions I've asked you today, and look at the value. And there's a bunch of other questions I have, but I know your schedule's tight. And I won't, before you jump off and go and help other people, I wanted to share a couple of websites here, if I can bring them up. And let me get the banner, because that's really hard to read. What did I do it at?
That's okay. It's just burg.com.
There we are. So what people can see this, where they're seeing it today, tomorrow, or 5 years from now. They can find out where you are, right?
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So that's one place. But where we got connected, and where I got to hang out with you and some other like-minded people, and people like Frank, which is really, connecting the dots backwards is easy to do, as Steve Jobs says. It was Frank's post into our community that got you and I talking about, and now here you are on the show. So that place is here, and I'm going to change the URL, and I believe I've got it right. Let me know, the gogivercommunity.com.
Perfect.
This is where we've met, and I've made some really fantastic connections with a variety of different people. Some are Canadian, some are American, and I think there might be some from afar.
Yeah, we've got them, from all over, but I would say mostly right now, North America. And it's a lot of fun growing it. And of course, Kathy Tajanel, who she's my business partner. She's the person who makes it all happen. And Estelle, who is from Quebec City, she is our community manager, and she's wonderful. So yeah,
Bonjour, Estelle.
Bonjour.
Do you want to tell us, the audience, a little bit about the online community that we're all part of?
Yeah, it's just really a group of people who are really together on bringing value to one another. Whose focus as part of the community is giving value while being open to receive as well. It's mostly entrepreneurs and salespeople. We've got some corporate people, but it's mostly entrepreneurs and salespeople. And we have some we have events such as our Go Giver networking, which is different from what people would consider the traditional networking.
Right.
We also have events such as conversations with legends, and just a whole bunch of
There's one we get to experience next week, right? Allison Levine.
Yeah, Allison Levine, the polar explorer and mountaineer, and who wrote a wonderful book. And in fact, just a
I'll make you bigger.
Yeah, it's called On the Edge. Leadership lessons from Mount Everest and other extreme environments, and she's just fantastic. I recommend her book highly, even if you're watching this 5 years from now and it's well past the time that you're on it. It really is a great book.
Cool. How would I get about that? Oh, there we go. And this is where you can go to this URL here. You can join the community and hang out and get to meet some really interesting go-giver type people. One of the things is, I maybe I'm wrong on this. Let me get rid of this for a minute, Bob, so we're a little bit bigger, and then we'll wrap this up. Is there go-giver is pulling in a positive way, and being a go-getter is pushing, and nobody likes to be pushed into anything, do they?
I would say this. I would say the opposite of a go-giver is a go-taker.
Yeah. Oh, very well.
Because we would say go-getters. If you look, it's always how you define terms. So if you define terms as go-get, like someone who's just out for the get, yeah, of course, you're absolutely right. But we would say go-getters are people of action, which we like, which we believe in. Go-givers are people who are absolutely focused and committed to providing immense value to others. So we'd say be a go-getter and a go-giver, but don't be a go-taker.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for defining that for me. I appreciate that. I thank you for being here. I know that you've got a crazy schedule, because you're a busy guy and lots on the go. So thank you for, I'm so grateful that you were here. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to next week as well.
Thank you, Coach Phil. You're great. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Wow, wasn't that good? Well, just to wrap this up real quick, guys and gals, one of the things I want to remind you about is that I always like to do, I just have to click on the right button here, is to be like your wonderful self. Like a coach mentor of mine many decades ago introduced me to this concept, and you like that on purpose because it represents the uniqueness in you. So continue being your unique self and do what Bob said: grow and be effective and be a go-giver, right? That's it for me today. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to you being on in our audience as we have another episode next week. Thanks again.
I get shit done, I have fun, it's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking